Hi, my name's Marjo Hallowell and I'm from Bargo. Recently I entered a Westwards competition and it was for a short story on things unsaid. The competition ran through the the council areas of Western Sydney and included Wingecarribee, so it came all the way down to the Southern Highlands. There were a number of categories ranging from 10 to 18 plus. I was in the 18 plus category. My story was written sort of on the spur of the moment because it just sort of was just something to do in the afternoon. So mine was just purely titled Things Unsaid. I'll read you some of that. Okay. A sense of dread occurred during the summer of 2019-2020, not just as a result of the atrocious bushfires that ravaged the area, but also the ensuing pandemic that reared its ugly head whilst bushfire recovery was trying to take place. Subsequent flooding engulfed the Shire and the skies opened and dropped their watery burdens. Resilience is a word that has become way too familiar in our vocabulary during the last few years. Those early days of driving through the desolate landscape where everything that surrounded you was blackened by flames was for me very confronting. I was just a humble volunteer and really felt for those who had lost their homes and livelihoods. My work was just a drop in the ocean, but as members of my community I felt I had to do something, anything. I was heartened by the multitude of people coming to assist at the community recovery hub from outside the area. Too often they are labelled by their race or religion, yet they were all there doing their bit. They were all helping whenever, wherever and whomever they could. The recovery hub closed when it became too much of a concern that volunteers could be susceptible to the new menace, the coronavirus, aka COVID-19. It had been a century since the world was in the grips of such a pandemic, and cases continued to increase. In the early days, there had been lockdowns imposed with infection being kept in check. As time went by, some could not handle the thought of being told they could not gather in large groups and continued to do so, and then wondered why the numbers of infected or died increased so drastically. Vaccination was seen as a solution, yet that too seemed to be a challenge for some. For me, the lockdown was not really challenging, but a blessing in disguise. It gave me time to focus on a project, to bury myself in research, and thankful for the ability to use the internet. Paying attention to the blood-curdling screams of two young teenage girls as they struggled to stay afloat in the fast-flowing creek that they had fallen into, desperately clinging to the tree branch, and taking comfort that your son and two neighbours' teenage sons raced down and pulled these girls out of the raging torrent. The rescuers will never go rewarded, apart from knowing that they saved lives that day. Fire, pandemic, and then floods, we all need to remember to say thank you to those who worked unselfishly during these times. It has been a traumatic few years. However, taking notice of the fairyland and flowers dancing in the light of the rainy night, smelling flowers as they exude their fragrance, and walking barefoot on the flooded lawns awakens the senses and makes one realise that no matter what catastrophes the world throws at you, one can always be mindful of simple pleasures life has to offer. So that was just my little short story. The comments by the judges were that it was a good narrative form and addressed a variety of senses in reaction to the theme. Refreshingly original in upbeat, positive outlook and told in proficient use of language. So that was a bit of a buzz for me, this 18 plus girl who just sort of thought she'd just write a little story. And if you're looking for a copy of the book, they've published all the winners and all the highly commendeds for all the different age groups, and it's available through Westwards. Thank you.